Oh, what a beautiful song by Mike. Incredible.
Very meaningful, very special.
Really emotive.
Yeah.
You know, just focusing on the love of God and how we can be abounding in love. So inspiring. And Joe, it also reminds me of the work you're doing in Liberia. Hope for Liberia is an incredible initiative that you started. And I'm just amazed at what God is doing through your servant heart to say, okay, Lord, use me. But also, I've got to first say, I really love what you're wearing. It's beautiful. This is traditional African clothing. Yes,
Yeah, I love this. They gave it to me when I went to Liberia during the pandemic, and they said, Pastor Joe, people are running away from airports. They're running away from Africa, but you're coming here. And so they made this just for me. And so whenever I wear it, I smile because I can see their faces, and they were just so excited to be able to give Pastor Joe a gift. It was awesome, and I'm glad to wear it today.
Well, it's so beautiful. I love the buttons. It's so stately.
Thank you.
You know, Joe, you just referenced so many people are running away from Liberia, but God has given you a heart for this country. Tell us why Liberia is so close to your heart.
I mean, why Liberia? That's a great question. I'd never heard of it before, to be honest, with you. In April of 2019, I received some communication from a pastor who happened to live there, and he said, would you be willing to come and teach here in Liberia? And he said, we can't afford your flight, we can't afford the hotel, no one's going to buy your book because they make $1.25 a day and they got to work 14 hours to get it. And the worse he made it sound, the more I wanted to go. And so we just took to Facebook and said, hey friends, we were in a charity at that point, but we want to go and just be in Liberia and go and love the people. And I went, and you can't get poverty from watching a screen. You can't get it from watching a YouTube video. When you're there and you're in amongst the people, even though they're living in poverty, Laura, it's the weirdest thing. Just contentment is the word that I would use. They would smile all the time. And I'd say, why are you smiling? Like, I just came from your house. I know where you live. I know how you live. They said, Pastor Joe, there's so many mangoes in the tree this season. They were so excited for mangoes. And I went, oh, Lord, help me to be content with what I have. So God broke my heart for the nation. And for the last 4 years, we've just been loving on the people and starting a lot of programs and doing things to help the community to sustain themselves.
It's so incredible. But, when you talk about poverty in this region, I think, for our viewers to understand, even just this morning we were talking and you shared about a bag of rice, the cost of a bag of rice, and how long it would take someone to save up money. Right now, a bag of rice is about $50.
It ranges from 15 to 50. So India just announced that they can no longer export their rice. So Liberia is not going to be getting rice. And so it's going to be jumping from 15 to 30 to 40 to 50.
Yeah.
And again, these people are making $1.25 a day, working 14 hours. Do the math. It's almost next to impossible. And so we'll talk in a little bit about what we're doing to help them to be self-sustaining.
Yes, in the area of food. Well, of course, when we deal with an impoverished nation, something, a place that's struggling in this way, it's children who are hit hardest often.
Always.
And so Hope for Liberia has started a project, and you have a school, an orphanage. Joe, just tell us more about this.
Death of women is still, at childbirth, is still the leading cause of death. And whether it's during the pregnancy, during the delivery, or shortly after. And so we have so many orphans in the community. And, we got to connect with a guy named Pastor Beamy, who his mom died when he was born, and then his first wife, she died giving birth to their last child. So he's had a heart to go after children who are on their own. And he literally goes around the different ghettos, and he looks for children who are abandoned outside of hospital doors on steps, and he takes them. And we said, Lord, we need a place for these kids. And God said, you build it. I was like, all right, Lord, let's go to it. I don't have any money. I don't have any contacts, but we're going to do it. And I'm so excited to tell you that even as recent as yesterday, we finished the roof on the orphanage. And so now we can move towards the inside. This is the drawing of what it's going to look like. Eventually, it'll have more.
And right now we see the school there.
Yeah, we're flying over the school. Yeah. And that was early on in the stages of the orphanage. You can see all the walls going in place there. And they started to put all the rebar and get it ready for the cement. It was a big project. There it is there. It's a 5,500 square foot building. It's going to house 100 children at a time. And people from the community, they stop all the time. They say, what in the world are you guys doing?
The kids there, Joe. And they're greeting you? Is that what?
Yeah, so hard to look at them because I want to be there right now. They were showing us where they live now on these blankets that are stained and they're dirty, and there's just, it's a terrible environment for them. And yet they smile, and there they are singing, waving to us. It's hard to watch those videos because I love seeing them, because I love seeing the kids, but I want to be there with them. And so God has been so faithful. Provision has come from places we never dreamed of, and it really is. It's a step of faith, you know. People say, Joel, how can you do all these things? I can't do all these things. The prayer was, God, give me a ministry I can't do without you. And not only is this something that we're doing, but I want to encourage anybody who's watching. If you got a vision, you got a dream, you have something in your heart, step out, step up, and God will do his part, but you got to do yours. You can't just sit at home and pray, Lord, make me a missionary to Africa, and then you sit in your bedroom. You got to take steps towards watching that dream come to pass. And that's what God has been doing. And we are just so blown away by all the provision. And I can't wait to go back in November and start putting bunk beds in place and getting it ready for the kids. I'm so excited.
Oh, I can't wait for those images and those videos,
Oh, I'll
Joe.
share them.
Okay.
Whether you want me to or not, I'm sharing them.
Oh, we want to see them.
I know.
Well, you know, you talked about when God, you know, when we just want to step out in faith and do what God is asking us to do and say, okay, God, well, what is it? And part of it is just being on the lookout for where God is on the move, where he can use us. Mm-hmm. And you've noticed a community near where you guys are in Liberia, and it's a blind community, and they've needed your help. And so you have said, okay, let's do this and help them, you know, move further along in their journey. So tell us a bit about what's happening with that local community of blind people. Yeah,
it's called the FDA Blind Community. And it's just a bunch of people who were blind who said, listen, we're better together than apart. We can help each other, and we can, you know, pool our money together and maybe buy a little more rice. And we kind of stumbled on them. We saw them begging and said, you know, like, isn't the government helping you? What's going on? And they're like, Pastor Joe, no one helps us. No one even remembers us. And so we decided to get a pickup truck, fill it up with about 1.5 tons of rice, and we just showed up at their place. And I noticed there was kids. There were so many kids. And we would say, you know, why aren't they in school? And they'd say, Pastor Joe, we need the kids because we don't have walking sticks. So we need the children to navigate the traffic and all that kind of stuff. And you can see the video here. You can't buy these in Liberia, these walking sticks.
And it's such a simple thing we would take for granted here in Canada.
Like 25 bucks. I just buy 10 at a time on Amazon, and I throw them in my suitcase and I give them out. And I said, we'll do a trade. We'll give you walking canes to help you out, and let us take your kids to school. And that little guy right there in the blue, to my left, the right of the screen, his name is Prince. He's making fun of me for being old, by the way. Because a 53-year-old is old, because a lot of their family members die young because of malnutrition and stuff. So 53, I'm ancient. Yeah. But he was grabbing up my shirt, and he says, I want to go to your school. I'm like, great, now I have to build a school. I can't let you stay here. And we did, with God's grace. Yes. I mean, people donated so much to be able to make that happen. And we just graduated our second year class with 330 kids.
Wow. You know, as a mom, it really hits my heart because I know that if my kids couldn't go to school, how limited their future would be. Yeah. And I know that they wouldn't be able to do the things that God is calling them to do or what they've been created to do. And when we are able to help kids get education, it changes their lives, but every single generation going forward, Joe. And so that's why I'm so thankful that you are out there. You're educating kids in Liberia in this wonderful, safe school, in a great environment of learning that's so rich.
Yeah, and more than just education, they get breakfast every day, they get lunch every day, a warm meal, they get picked up by bus, which someone donated the money so that we could buy a bus to pick up the kids. And we have routes all along the main highway. And the teacher said, we've never seen students so excited to come to school, you know, because they want to be there. And so we are so blessed to have this school for the children.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Well, you know, you mentioned feeding the kids in the morning, and we talked a little bit about food insecurity in the nation, but you are really focused on creating a sustainable concept for food security for those who are part of Hope for Liberia and receiving the ministry from you. Tell us a little bit more about the food sustainability that you're creating and doing with the local community.
Yeah, well, during COVID, we really saw the need for this because there was a shortage of rice at that time coming out of China. That's where it was coming from. And people were like literally fighting over bags of rice because it was so hard to buy. The ships would just come into port and there would be lineups for miles of people wanting to buy a bag of rice, and they were just being gouged. I mean, it was crazy. And we said, Lord, what can we do to make it sustainable so that these people always have food in their community? They don't have to rely on anybody else, not even on me. And the Lord said, start a farm. I'm like, sure, why not? You know, build a school, build an orphanage, let's do a farm. And so we were able to buy 30 acres of land. And when I say we were able to buy, because people donated here.
Now, what are you growing there?
This is cassava.
Wow.
Cassava is a root vegetable, and it is a staple. Yeah. And this is like 2 months later. Man, I got so excited. I know nothing about farming, but I know you can eat that stuff. And so I get excited about it for them. And when they were picking corn, man, Laura, you should have seen their faces. They're like, this is ours. We don't have to give it to anybody. We can eat this. Here they're harvesting these little eggplants that they eat like apples. They just kind of pop them and go. And they're just sitting around chilling, so excited, you know. And Rihanna's rice, this was a dear partner whose mom passed away, who had a farm out in Western Canada in BC, and they bought 5 acres of rice in her mom's name. Her name was Rihanna. And so now they're growing rice in her mom's name to continue to feed children. And it's just such a privilege to be a part of something like this.
Yeah. Joe, it's incredible to hear about what God is doing through Hope for Liberia, to know you firsthand and hear these stories when you go and you come back. Recently you were there and you did see someone experience a physical healing right in front of you. So God is moving in all different kinds of ways.
He is. You know, it's important to do spiritual ministry. That really matters. But what I noticed is that people's ears work better when their stomachs are full. You know, and so you're preaching about the goodness of God and how awesome He is, and they're starving to death. So we feed them till they can't eat no more. And then we say, it's in this God's name that we bring this to you. And they're so receptive to the gospel because they're so thankful for God's goodness. And so we believe in a holistic approach to ministry to people.
It's amazing how God pours out His Spirit in situations like that, where we meet someone's practical need, we pray with them, and then incredible things continue to unfold. Joe, for our viewers who are watching right now, they want to know more about Hope for Liberia. Where can they go? Yeah,
hopeforliberia.com. They can get all our programs there and find out what we're doing. And I'm going back in November. And like I said, when I come back, I'll bring you some more updates.
Well, we can't wait for that, Joe.